We're just going to have a whole conversation.
Yeah, we're going to have a whole thing beforehand. But I'll give you my normal spiel here.
While you give your spiel, I'm going to go grab coffee. I'll be right back.
Rhyme or free, it doesn't matter to me. It's my bad poetry. Good day, and welcome to My Bad Poetry, a podcast where we take a deep dive into our poems from youth, yesteryear, or even yesterday, always asking the question, why in the world did I write this? I'm Aaron.
And I'm Dave.
And today we have with us a professor of writing, a doctor of English, a reviewer and writer of poems, and once upon a time was aspiring rhinoceros. Katie Manning, welcome to My Bad Poetry.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here.
An aspiring rhinoceros, was this a poem you wrote? I'm trying to remember why I put that in your intro.
So when I was about 2 years old, my mom took me to the zoo for the first time. And when I saw a rhinoceros, I went, oh, Mom, I want to be one of those when I grow up.
Nice.
So that was my aspiration. I haven't quite made it, but there's still time.
There's still time. Yeah.
Keep working toward that goal. You'll get there.
Fingers crossed.
Everything is possible.
I had a long conversation with a kid trying to explain that rhinoceros is pronounced rhinoceros and not rhinoceros, and that they are not dinosaurs.
Aww.
You know, it's really a missed opportunity, though. I like rhinoceros.
Right? Rhinoceros is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
A nosed dinosaur. Eh.
Within that very brief intro, I'm wondering if there's anything else that you might want to share with our dear listeners about yourself before we move into the bad poems?
I'm not sure. I think, what else could I say? I parent two little boys who are getting big and are looking me in the eye now, and that's strange. I have been, for the last 11 years, the area chair for poetry for the Pop Culture Association National Conference. And so that's fun. I just went to that a couple weeks ago in New Orleans. So I don't know. Those are a couple other things that I do.
That's awesome.
Nice.
We might talk a bit more about this at the end with the topics of your book, but you did give us a juicy bit of information before we started recording that you are not only a doctorate in English, but you are kind of a biblical scholar, at least on the pop trivia side of things.
I definitely have some background, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I figure we might dip into some of those topics considering the title of one of these poems that you have given us. But before we get into yours, I'm so excited to try and figure out what's going on with this poem. We got to get into the realm of bad poetry. So Dave, how about you bring us into the realm of bad poetry with whatever you have hastily written for this week?
Okay. This is a poem called Regardez les jeunes tomber. Where can one find perfect joy? Enjoying the swirls in water made by koi, patiently listening to the rain on the roof, giggling at shenanigans of a dog named Goof, understanding the purpose to which you aspire, running with hope so that you could never tire. One can search for what makes them joyed, but it always comes back to Schadenfreude.
That's delightful.
Yeah. Aaron, did you get my attempt at French? I was going to air quotes French and then realized it's not even air quotable. Like, it's attempt at French.
Was it your title?
Yeah.
Okay.
Regardez les jeunes tomber.
I mean, I don't speak French. Just because I have a sister who does, doesn't mean I know anything about
Fine.
it. So what does that mean?
According to Google Translate, it means watching people fall over.
Oh.
That makes it even better.
Yes.
Right? I tried to be as pretentious as possible.
It's amazing. That did it it struck the right tone to be a little pretentious in the title. Yeah. It's amazing.
Now, what I love about that is it explains Schadenfreude, but still in a different language.
Yeah.
Like Schadenfreude is one of those loan words because we don't have a good translation from German. So your title is in French.
I was debating if I should make it in German, but then I remembered I can't pronounce either language, so I thought it'd be more fun to completely screw it up in two ways.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Did you joyed? Is that?
Yeah, joyed.
Well, that was my favorite part.
Okay.
That makes them feel joyed.
Did you coin joyed? What? That doesn't sound right to me.
I don't know.
It's like joyful, but it needed to rhyme, right?
Yeah.
So joyed.
Is it past tense joy? Like
sure.
Happy.
It's a perfect. It's the completed form of joy.
A perfect form of joy. Okay.
Says someone who does not fully comprehend the English language.
Do any of us, though? Come on.
You're the one with the doctorate.
Yeah.
Well, that was something, Dave.
That was the kindest mean thing you could say. Good work, Aaron.
But you know, our show is a bit of Schadenfreude in a way. Mm-hmm. When we look at these cringeworthy poems of our past. And Katie, in the document, you have some explaining to do.
Oh, do I?
I think so.
You didn't tell me I had to explain things. I thought I just got to read them.
Yeah.
Well, typically, we have you introduce your bad poem with just a clean read, no context. And I'm debating whether we need some context to how you introduce this poem in the document.
Oh, I think we at least need to acknowledge the visual representation on the page.
Yes. So how about for our dear listeners' sake, because they don't get to see this, what are you doing visually here with your first poem for us?
So it is a concrete poem. Mm-hmm. It sort of looks like an arrow pointing up, but it is clearly meant to be a penis.
Mm-hmm. Very phallic in its imagery.
It is indeed. It's kind of not subtle, but...
Yeah, I would definitely say not subtle.
Not subtle.
Not
subtle at all.
Yeah. So with that in mind, dear listeners, picture... you can
picture whatever you want.
Yeah, but... as this is being read to you, and it's titled A Prayer. Okay.
A prayer. God, forgive us for pinning a penis on our conception of you, confining you to human limits of sexuality, because our corrupt minds can't conceive of a being who combines both male and female, mother, father, but still remains far beyond both human halves of your creation. In your name we pray. Amen.
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 Yeah.
You know, in some places I could see this prayer being lifted up on a Sunday.
Yeah.
I have heard that some of my poems have been shared in church services. Not this one that I've heard anyway.
Really?
Let me know if anybody wants to use it. You know?
We'll farm it out to some colleagues and see.
Yeah. As someone in rural ministry, I'm just imagining the look on the old farmers' faces as I read this, and they throw their hymnals at me.
That is a risk you would have to take, yes.
I think the biggest hiccup for me, if we want to call it that, it might be the kind of the pin the tail on the donkey image that you have right up front.
Oh, that's my favorite part.
I like that, actually.
I mean, it's alliterative. I gotta love it for that. Pinning a penis on the conception of you, on our conception of you.
Yeah, so I mean, you have your image of God, and it's a party game.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a pin. Yeah, I get it.
Well,
I think so. while this is just objectively a bad poem, I also have a lot of fondness for it because I'm like, so I sometimes I think of my past self as like, oh, honey, oh, you do your thing.
Oh, bless your heart.
So, and if I think about the way I would engage with something from my college students now, there's just a lot of like, all right, you're working some things out here. You're working out, some theological things. You're working out some things about poetic form. Like, there's a lot of room to learn and grow and try things out and see what happens.
But there's good starts there. Like I did giggle at the use of conception and conceive. It's just yeah.
I didn't even catch that. That's nice.
Nouns of generation there. It's yeah. Or nouns of generation, verbs, whatever. Who cares? I don't know words.
I mean, you had joyed in your poem, so
Yeah, I'm kind of a genius. I agree.
We just collapse all of those together. It's a noun, it's a verb, it's an adjective, whatever.
So you have in the doc, I present to you College Katie's penis poems. Now, Katie, that is plural. I want to ask, were you working with this particular concrete shape in other artistic endeavors?
I hate to disappoint you, but no, I was not.
Okay.
I was, in fact, working on a poetry project that was poems in the voices of women in a variety of poetic forms. So I had my concrete poem. I think I'm going to share my couplet poem with you. And I was just writing in all sorts of different forms about all sorts of things.
Okay. Nice. Now, I normally, like, with concrete poems and stuff, I like to ask about, like, how did you decide on the shape? Or, like,
this one feels a little obvious, so
a little on the nose.
It's a little.
You capitalize every word at the beginning of the line.
There's a lot of capitalization going on there.
Would you do that if you were doing this poem today?
There are a lot of things I would not do in this poem today. But no, I don't. So are you familiar with the term majusculation?
No, please enlighten me.
I can't say that I am.
That is the capitalization of the first word of every line in a poem. It comes from like typesetting. There were majuscules. And so majusculation is a fantastic word that I really enjoy saying. And that is what's going on here with all the capitalization. And then a few other things are capitalized too, just, to like drive it home.
Okay, say that word again for the beginning line, the capitalization.
It's majusculation.
Majusculation.
It's showing the majesty and magic of making
of majuscules.
There you go. Nailed it.
Way back in the day, I tried to introduce a part of this podcast when we were still figuring things out of
We're still
poetic
figuring things out,
You're
buddy.
still figuring, but a poetic word of the day, and haven't done that in a while. But this is
well, now we have one.
Now we have one.
Majusculation,
and the fact that it rhymes with something else that this concrete form makes one perhaps think of. I don't know what to do with that.
It is one of those words that if you throw it out in a workshop, everybody goes.
Yeah.
And kind of looks up in a startled way.
It's like,
what the heck did she just say?
Is
your majusculation intentional? Or is this just what the Word document made you do? Like,
I think you might be a little premature on how you're lining this up.
It's, you got to watch that majusculation, man.
Oh, yeah.
Overall, though, like I said, as a prayer, as a poem, I really like this. And coming from a college aged writer, it makes all the more sense because you're like, it's that time in your life when you're like breaking out of your shell, or maybe you're deconstructing some of the theology that you've been raised with, and you're not always subtle when you're doing it.
Right.
Well, and it doesn't feel subtle when you're,
No.
when you're experiencing that, oh, wait, God is not literally male. That's,
No.
Shocking if you've
Yeah.
kind of had that in your head for your entire life to that point, couple decades maybe. It is not a subtle thing. It is sort of, explosive.
So,
I like that we're just going to giggle at everything.
Yep. There's no way to get around it.
okay. So why, when you were writing this, you said you were also experimenting with poetic forms. Why did you think, you know what, this isn't obvious enough? Or maybe I'm putting a thought but why this concrete shape? Why the phallic shape?
I can't say for sure because it was, half my life ago now. But I think if I could get back into my college Katie head, that it felt like maybe it would startle people in the way that I had been startled.
Sure.
Dave, anything else that caught your attention from this one?
I thought it was interesting, the male, female, mother, father. So when I was in college, my then girlfriend, now wife, her sister was also in college and studying religion with me. And she had this whole, I love her very much. She is my sister-in-law. She is a wonderful person. But we had a conversation, air quotes, that was not a conversation. It was a lecture from her to me that was about gender expansive language for God rather than agendered language for God. Because that's usually where I went to, was just, I'm just not going to use pronouns. I'm just going to say God.
Agendered. Got it. Not agender as in male or female, but
sorry.
agender as in non-gendered. Got it. Sorry.
Yeah. But I find it interesting, the different ways you can take it, the different directions you can go with that.
Thinking about pronouns for God, around this time of writing this poem, I also wrote a paper for my linguistics class that argued that we should use they to refer to God, because it can be singular, it can be plural, it is right there.
It's right there.
Right. And it feels pretty obvious,
yeah. It does feel super obvious. So, Katie in, it was like, what, 2003? I was
ahead
on
of the
it.
time.
I was super ready to use they pronouns for God.
Yeah.
There you go.
No, I have resorted to that many a time, because sometimes it gets a little clunky when, especially for God so loved the world that God gave God's only son. It gets a little. No. So it's nice to work a they in there every once in a while. Yeah. Let's look at this other one that you've given us before we go down too many more puns on the shape.
We're going to go into some more puns.
Oh, great. I love it. Okay, so this one's called...
I was going to say, Aaron, you're not going to make some kind of, oblique reference of, going from one phallic shape to another? With Big Ben?
Oh, with Big Ben!
Come on!
Okay.
It's right here in the poem.
It's
That's also
right
not subtle.
Here.
Right.
Okay. Well, this is why...
So disappointed in you, Aaron.
It makes sense now. But
yeah.
So read away.
All right. Coupling with Big Ben. I walked across Westminster Bridge alone. From my companions, I had fled to Rome. I needed to rejuvenate my mind, and wandering would allow me to unwind. Beside the Thames I strolled, breeze in my hair. With no suspicion, love would find me there. But when I looked up and beheld his face, our love affair began with rapid pace. He sang to me each hour with notes divine, seduced me with his hands to pass the time. I wanted him to be forever near, but gradually the light did disappear. The seconds fell in rhythm with the rain. I left and never saw his form again. Though Freud might label it a phallic thrill, my love for Ben was pure and haunts me still.
Oh, that is fascinating. I love that. There's so many good lines in there. Seduced me with his hands to pass the time.
That's my personal favorite. Yeah.
That's so good.
I just love that it rhymes. It's such like this
it's
fun
couplets,
little
coupling.
love poem.
It had to be.
Exactly.
Had to be.
Yeah. Oh, you like your puns, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
I
do. Oh, nice.
Yeah. No, this is so fun. Yeah. Rain and again.
Yeah.
It always gets you.
If I'm singing a hymn, I'm very loudly pronounce it again or
Yep.
have to hit that exact rhyme no matter what.
I don't remember which hymn it is, but there's
Who has won the victory is my
victory?
favorite.
Yes.
No. We have one that rhymes love and prove.
Oh, so yes.
My love, may I still thy goodness prove.
Uh-huh. Absolutely.
And my wife and I, every time we sing it, we stare at each other and just go, prove. Just ridiculous.
I do something very similar with my spouse. We'll look at each other and like giggle over these words that I have to do it.
English is funny in that we can have these endings, and it's like we all know that they don't rhyme, but visually they do.
If you're reading something or singing something old enough, there's a chance that it did rhyme
that
more
the
exactly.
accent was very different.
It fell out of rhyme.
Yes. Indeed.
Oh, I was just going to say, Emily, who was on the show 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, she and her family have always tried to make hymns rhyme. So must be a very common thing for nerds of a certain type.
Absolutely. That's kind of lovely to know.
Yeah, you are not alone in that. So you might be alone in your love of Big Ben.
Oh, surely not. I'm sure there are other people who love Big Ben.
In such a way.
It's a beautiful clock.
It is. When were you in London?
So that was the summer of 2003.
Okay.
I went for 3 weeks it was a college trip, and we went around the UK and spent almost a week in London. So, and it was one of those things where I, at some point, kind of turned a corner or something and looked up and I was like, it's Big Ben. So, if you loved Peter Pan when you were a kid, you got to see Big Ben. Like it features in so many things, right? So many shows. It's one of those staple, iconic landmarks. Yeah. So I was just sort of in awe of it when I finally saw it in person.
Do I get to be the annoying, pretentious person that points out that Big Ben is actually the bell and not the tower?
I do. I know that. And I thought about it when I said it, but I was like, we're just going to roll with it. But
that's...
Who cares, right?
It's one of those things where language is defined by how we use it, and you can refer to the bell as Big Ben, but the tower is the tower that contains Big Ben? I don't know.
Right.
Does it have an official name? Do we know?
I'm sure it does.
I mean, it's like the Parliament building.
Nope. Yeah.
Right. And then
I think this is very clever, very fun. I think Dave agrees. But what about it makes you bring it to this show, My Bad Poetry? What irks you about this one?
I mean, honestly, as I was scanning my old poems to see what would be most fun to talk about on a podcast, I decided surely it's these two poems. And, I think there's there's so many things. I am glad that I wrote this when I did, because I wouldn't write it now. And I think that about so many of my old poems. Like, I'm so glad that, elementary school Katie or college Katie wrote these poems that I wouldn't be able to write now, because I wouldn't think about things that way, or I wouldn't choose to write in that form, or, and that's good. But also I feel like I would be really sad if I didn't have this poem to look back on, because it does something, it does some things that make me laugh a lot. I don't know. I mean, I think there's the sense in the last two lines that, like, oh, I need to actually make sense of this, or I need to have like a disclaimer at the end of this poem, and that cracks me up. So yeah, there's a lot going on here that's just fun to talk about.
No. You see the last two lines as a disclaimer?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Like, or a defense, maybe.
A defense. Yeah, it feels like this was true. Like, this is pure. Like, don't laugh this off. I love this tower. Yeah.
It's the clock. It's really the clock
face. Okay.
And the bell. And yeah.
Oh yeah, it did sing to you on the hour.
It did.
Well, sometimes a poem is just a poem, and a tower is just a tower, and a cigar is just a cigar. So, yeah.
Indeed.
So, okay, let's see if I can remember the word that you taught us here. Majusculation?
Majusculation.
Majusculation. You're doing it again in this one.
Yes.
And I think there might be punctuation at every single end of the line.
Yeah, it is entirely end stopped.
End stop. Yeah. Oh, I love when
See, this is what's cool. Back when Aaron and I were just talking about his terrible poetry, we didn't learn things.
No.
We were just embarrassed in general.
Yes.
So it's cool talking to people who are smart and know things.
We can be technically embarrassed as well.
Yes.
Yes.
My poetry from high school was not on a level where the technical even mattered. But okay, so the majestic.
Think about what it rhymes with.
Yes.
You can do it.
Majeculation? Did I? Okay, well.
You really leaned into some of those rhymes there, buddy.
So, majusculation.
We're going to have a content warning before this one.
We're going to need, I'm going to have to record a tag for the beginning on this one.
I'm going to type this in the Zoom chat.
Yes, so please do. Yes.
That's not going to help, because we're just going to screw it up even more.
Majusculation.
You might.
Majusculation. No, that totally helps. Yeah. Okay. So majusculation and end stops. I look at that and I think that is exactly what I thought of as poetry when I learned it in junior high and high school. I needed punctuation at the end of every line, and the first line always had to have it capitalized. Do you find that that's a habit that you need to kind of break with students or challenge with students as they're coming into your program? Is this a common, I wouldn't say issue, but a common way that people think they have to write poetry?
I think, people come in with a variety of expectations, like poems have to rhyme, or poems have to be end stopped, or, you have to use the capitalization at the start of lines. Or some people come in and are like, all poems are better if they are centered on the page. And, there's a whole range. And I think I don't try to break habits as much as to get students to think about, are you choosing these things deliberately, or do you just have them as this is what a poem is supposed to do or supposed to look or sound like? So yeah, I hope that's what I'm doing. And I think the more students read current poetry, the more they try out different ways to make poems.
Speaking of current poetry, your newest book here, this one's your newest one, right?
It is.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the style that you used when writing this one?
I can, yeah. Her Reverent is my newest one. Basically, there are a couple stories to this one. So I had just had a child and I was finishing my PhD program, so finishing my dissertation, and I was about to move across the country to take a full-time professor position. And so I thought, I might never write again.
Sure.
This is a lot. And so I gave myself an assignment, and I thought about what it was that I wanted to focus on. And I kind of just was thinking about the way that I felt a lot of fury toward people who take language from the Bible out of context and use it as a weapon against other people. So I decided that I would take language from the Bible out of context and create poems. So I used the last chapter of each book of the Bible as a word bank for each of the poems in the collection. And then I sort of anagrammed the titles, or partially anagrammed the titles from the books that they came from.
Yeah, so some of your titles are like the Book of Denial instead of Daniel, and the Book of Ek for Ecclesiastes, or Ezekiel, sorry. Yeah, and then you have, what I love about this is in your table of contents, you have a very soft, like gray after image of the book that you're kind of playing with.
I thought that might be helpful for people to have the grayscale, so you can see where these things came from.
Well, that's really fun.
It's just exhausting when creative people are that talented. I'm sick of it, so stop.
Thank you. I appreciate the aggressive compliment.
Yeah. You're doing something creative with a message and a purpose that is still beautiful, and I'm sick of it.
Even your playful love poem to Big Ben is better than most things that I would ever dream of writing.
You're kind.
It's a fun one. Yeah. What kind of poetry you've done? Multiple kind of faith-based works. What kind of poetry are you dabbling with right now?
I love that question. I have been working. Oh, I have my manuscript sitting here. Not that anybody can read it or see it except for you, but I have this giant manuscript. So I pulled all of the poems together that I've been working on for the last several years. And I've been writing around grief and trauma, but sort of almost sideways through scientific observation. And it started with a poem that was about finding, you'll like this actually. now that we've talked for a little bit, I'm like, oh, you're going to get a kick out of this. So it's going to start with something really tragic. So I apologize, like brace yourselves for that, but then I promise it's going to get better. So in 2016, we lost my spouse's parents very suddenly because of a car accident, which was horrifying. And so when we were going through their house and going through their office, my father-in-law was a pastor. That's how actually my spouse and I met when we were 10 and 11, because his dad came to be the pastor at my family's church.
Wow.
So I'm going through his books, and he has, these shelves of Bibles and, commentaries and theology books and all the things, right? And then there's this one book on the, like at the end of a shelf that was kind of crumbling, and it looked amazing. It's like, this is the book that's going to, have some kind of open a hidden compartment somewhere. Like it was that kind of like old and amazing looking book. And I pulled it off the shelf and opened it up, and it was Darwin's On the Origin of Species.
Nice.
And I went, like, what a thing to have on the shelf with all of the Bibles, So I wrote a poem about that. And that was the poem that sort of sparked me in this direction of writing through grief and trauma, but also kind of in conversation with Darwin.
Huh.
Wow. It'll be interesting to see how that project evolves.
It will indeed. Thank you. Thank you for that. We're full of it. Full of all the puns and also full
of something.
Yes.
Well, Katie, you are welcome back on this show anytime.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, this has been a blast, and I think we could talk for hours, but we will need to wrap this up. And so before we let you go, we here at My Bad Poetry, we end each week with the words of a true poet. So would you be willing to read for us another one of your poems that you are in fact very proud of?
I would love to do that. All right. So this poem that I was just talking about is On the Origin. I find an old copy of Darwin's On the Origin of Species among my father-in-law's Bibles and theology books, and my own laugh startles me in the empty house. We never talked about Darwin that I recall, but of course this well-read man wouldn't have been afraid of the church's favorite villain after Satan and Judas. His faith was never threatened by thought. I once thought that to be saved was to laugh at science. What a shock to later learn Darwin's sin was observing turtles and pigeons, flying squirrels and bats, and realizing that all things change. I know that I can't keep everything, and that nothing I take will be enough to fill what's lost, but I pick the crumbling book from the shelf, wrap it in tissue, and tuck it in my suitcase to save.
Didn't I just complain about creative people being good at stuff? I'm
Apologies.
sick of it.
I'm so sorry.
That was beautiful.
Oh,
thank you.
I love that.
Yeah, that's gorgeous.
It's such a lovely poem. And it does go with some of those themes that we talked about with your first poem of not being afraid of thought.
I was just thinking that as I was reading it, I went,
Right.
oh, this does chime with that first poem.
Yeah.
It's the like, here is this epiphany, that about something to do with God or something to do with, thinking critically.
Yes.
And yeah, so I do like that as maybe a more, hopefully a more advanced version of some things I was doing when I was college, Katie.
This has been My Bad Poetry.
Now go write some of your own bad poetry.
Perfect.
And it doesn't have to be about phalluses or anything. You can write about whatever you want.
But bonus points if it is. I mean...